I've been busy again making envelopes. These three are just a few that I've made this week. As usual, collage paper. I've used gesso, I've used the distress inks and also some spray ink. And these are some pieces of paper, old book pages, dictionary pages that I've just used to collage on. Of course, this technique, you could use it in your journal page or in an altered book. What I will probably do as well is I'll do some doodling on here or use some stamps just to change the envelopes and make them a little bit more interesting. Probably put some doodling around here, maybe stick another sticker on the back. I was going to put some transfers on here, but then I thought to myself, I think I'm quite transferred out at the moment because all I seem to have done lately is transfers. So it's quite nice to do something that you know is going to work, because transfers are very, very hit and miss. I like my base envelope to be quite thick, and this is a piece of scrap paper that used to be a GCSE exam paper. So what I'm first going to do is I'm going to put a background down onto it so that then I can build up some layers. I've got some pieces of paper here that I've just ripped using a ruler, and I've ripped them sort of to the width of the ruler, but it's up to you whatever size you want. This here is also some ripped stuff. This is out of an old exercise book, so it's a maths book. And once again, I've just used the ruler to rip it up, and it looks quite interesting, does that? So let's get started. I'm going to use white PVA glue, and I'm going to stick these down in strips. I bought myself a new brush today, just specifically for gluing. The thing is though that it's an artificial camel haired brush, and I found that the bristles look like they're leaving it, so they're coming out. I give it a quick wash because it had some like starch or glue on it. So I give it a quick wash, but quite a few of the bristles came out when I washed it. So I'm hoping that I'm not going to lose any more onto my artwork, because I hate it when you get hairs in the artwork, in the glue, because it takes ages to pull them out and they tend to lump up under anything that you stick down. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick these on alternately, and I'm going to use full-size pieces. Initially I was going to put them down like patchwork, but I think what I'm going to do is do full-size pieces. Now I'm not too bothered about it going right to the edge, because I'm going to use a template and cut this out like to make a largish envelope. What I am going to do though is I'm going to cover the cut or the torn edges of the paper with glue, and the next piece is just going to go over. I've torn these rather than cutting them, and I quite often cut them with the scissors, but I tend to find that if you actually tear them, they do lay down quite a bit better than when they're cut. You see these little holes here? This is where I was playing with the hole punch earlier, just doing a few trial runs with a crocodile. So that's why it looks like it's got woodworm. Little woodwormy holes. Okay. So once again, when I get all these put down, it gives quite a nice thick background, and then I can build up some layers, and also it reinforces the paper, like one of the hairs there off the brush. It does reinforce the paper quite a bit and makes it nice and thick to work with. If you're sending Happy Mail across the sea, then you don't want the envelope to drop to bits, do you? It's quite nice, isn't it, that dark green piece? Once again, I'll be using my template that I made before to cut out the envelope, so it doesn't matter if I don't go right up to these edges, because they're actually going to be either cut off or flaps. So I'm not overly bothered about these edges here. Another thing that I tend to try to do is I try to cover all the strips with glue, because if you get a nice covering of glue on them, it makes it nice and shiny, or it's like a nice shiny background to start and put other layers on. So once again, I'm just putting these down. I may decide later that I don't like these darker ones in amongst the lighter pages, but that's okay, because I can always put some gesso or something over them once they've dried. Okay, nearly finished now. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to cut these pieces so that they're actually partial, a little bit like a patchwork quilt. But today I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put just long strips on. Can you see some of these are just really short because they've been cut off ready for using in something. So I just need to get some of these ready that aren't short. That one there. That's another one. Now, when I'm doing this sort of a background, I don't like it if they carry on like that. So I probably won't be using another piece like that. Again, I really don't like lines that carry on through. I know, just the way I am. Like with that, I wouldn't really want another one now with two lines. I've got one there, two there, one there. That's more or less it for lines, because if you carry it through onto the next piece like that, if it doesn't all carry through, I always think that it looks odd. So let's have a go at that. Quite a nice piece. Like I say, I'm not really bothered about these edge pieces because I'm going to either cut them off or they're going to be underneath. They're going to be part of the flaps, so it won't really matter one way or the other whether they're covered or not. Last few pieces. Look at that one, that couldn't have been chosen better, because this one has no red lines, and that's fine. There we go. Like I said, I didn't really want those red lines to carry on across. Last couple of pieces down. Make sure that this doesn't look too equal. Yeah, I'll put that piece down. And then the last piece can be, oh my goodness, a piece without red lines looking equal. That'll do. Blob of glue. That's good. I think that last piece is going to be the flap, so that just finishes it off nicely. Doesn't matter if it's got a few ripples in it, but that's quite good. Originally I was going to keep this as one big envelope, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it in half and actually make 2 envelopes out of this one piece. No reason, just because I feel like it. So working on one piece, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some gesso, and this is quite cheap gesso, and mix it up with some water. I want to cover this, but I don't want it totally covered. I want some of the print to show through, and that's why I'm just going to put a watery layer of gesso on top. That way then it does give a bit of a grab to the colours that I'm going to put on top, but you don't lose the pictures below from the paper. Whatever's showing through when it dries, you'll still be able to see it. I could have done it with a dry brush and just dry brush the gesso on, but then it doesn't give as good a coverage, and what I'm wanting is I'm wanting a full coverage so that when I layer my next layer of paints or inks on top, it's actually equal all the way across. I don't want some of it to soak in and some not. Okay, I've got my dried envelopes. I'm just going to give this a bit of a trial run with a piece of scrap book page that I'd put the gesso on. So I've got some spray ink. Now my spray ink is just normal writing ink that I've topped. I've put about that much in the bottom of this bottle and topped up with water. So it is literally just a writing ink. I'm going to put a light spray of that on and pick that up, and that's what sort of an effect I'm looking for on my envelopes. I just want a light colouring. So pick the rest of that up with some scrap paper, mainly because this then can go into Happy Mail, because people do like some bits and pieces in their Happy Mail. Right, next I've got some distress oxides. I've got all sorts of different colours here. I think with the purple I'm going to put the green and the pink, just because I like green and pink together. So I'm going to put it onto the top here, I think. Give it a spray with water, and then just move it around a little bit with my finger so that I'm pulling the colours into each other, and then putting that down to see. Yes, that's exactly the type of effect that I'm wanting on my envelope. Yeah. Right. I think that colour matches quite good together. Right, I shall put that to one side. I may even use that as the foundation for another envelope. Okay, put some of my, just a quick spray of my spray ink down, and just pick that up on my envelope. It's quite nice. on the other piece. Pick the purple up on both pieces. I'm going to use a piece of book page now just to mop up the last of that purple, just so that you're not wasting it, and then give it a wipe over with my baby wipe, because I don't want, more than anything, I don't want to contaminate the pads that I'm using here with the purple more than anything. So I'm just going to put a little bit of green on, a little bit of pink on. And once again, I'm going to mix them a little bit. I found that if you don't put too much on and you keep it like this, you don't get a muddy colour. Whereas sometimes if you actually do more than this, hoping to do 2 or 3 pages from the same set on the table, what happens is it just goes to mud. So mop that up, pick the rest of that up with a book page, give it a quick wipe, and then I'm going to put some more green down, just because I want the green over the edges. Quite nice. And just throw a bit of green in the middle. Okay. Pick the rest of that up with a book page so that we can start clean again, fresh on here. I'm going to put some pink on, some green on, and then, like I say, I'm going to mix the two together. If you mix them quite carefully, it stays in 2 distinct colours, but as you can see here, you get the nice mixing of colours, like a rainbow effect. I like to see the distinct colours as well, though I'm not too keen on when it all blurs together. I'm just going to finish off my envelopes this evening. As you can see, I've got a wide selection of them using different inks, and if you look, the colour of the background is almost the same as my envelopes, which is really strange. So I'll just pick a couple and decorate them up. I think I'll decorate these 2 up. So what I tend to do when I'm sitting around at home, I doodle flowers. And I do it just in a biro, with a black biro, and then every now and again I get my cheap watercolours out and just paint over them with watercolours, or use watercolour crayons or pencils and just colour them in, rip them up. These are old dictionary pages, but I do it with any book pages or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use white glue and just decorate these envelopes up. When I put things onto envelopes or into my altered books, I don't like straight lines like this. I think it looks a little bit strange. So I think I'm going to have to tear this off or use one that's torn, more or less like that maybe, just to decorate this envelope up. Now, because these are watercolours, I can't get glue on the front of them, because if I get glue on the front of them, the watercolour will smudge. So I'm going to have to be very, very careful when I glue it. Usually I use white glue, PVA glue, but I think today I'll use matte medium, which doesn't tend to soak through the paper as much. I got some new brushes the other day, just for using with gesso and glue, and that's mainly because gesso is quite rough on brushes, and I've got quite a few really nice brushes, but I don't want to ruin them by using gesso on them. So this one here professes to be synthetic camel. Don't quite know what synthetic camel looks like, but that's what it professes to be. So like I said, I'm using matte medium just because the white glue tends to be quite wet and it soaks through the paper. The matte medium, I can go right to the edges and it won't move the watercolour. And I'm just going to stick that down like that. Okay. And that's one done. If this wasn't watercolour, I would use some Mod Podge or white glue over the top of it to hold it down, but I don't want it going into a blurred grey. There we go, that's ready to go off now. And this one here, I think I'm going to put a yellow one on here, like this one here maybe. I don't know, looks a bit, maybe it blurs in a little bit. This one here, that one looks more like it. Now like I said, I don't like this, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just tear off down. I quite like where it says classic, so I'll keep that. Tearing a little bit so it's not perfectly even and straight, but that's it. That's it. I don't even know if I like that straight line across the top there. I think that can be torn as well. That's it. Classic. So once again, just going to use the matte medium for gluing it down. Quite like using the matte medium for a variety of things. It's good for transfers. And I've been quite into making transfers both in my altered books and on envelopes, and matte medium seems to be the best for the transfers. Transfers are a bit hit and miss anyway, but it doesn't seem to work too badly. And there we go, classic. I decided to leave the classic on. That's it. Another one done there and there.